Ready to go?
Okay, we're going to get started. Sorry we're a little late, but we're getting all our technical stuff set up. So welcome everyone to our meeting tonight. July, just after the 250th anniversary of the country. 250 years, hopefully we'll hit 300. Most of us will probably not be here to see it, but okay, here's the area that we cover, Mission Grove Neighborhood Alliance, most of the southern part of the city and part of the county, Woodcrest and beyond. We get people from quite a ways away sometimes now. Here's the fire map again. Now there's a little update on the fire. How many have gotten a notice from the fire department that they had an inspection and now they're due to pay money? In the back. Brian, you want to explain what you heard from the chief on that?
Someone sent us a notice questioning that, so I sent it off to the fire chief. The inspection is free, but if you fail the inspection, then they have to come back and re-inspect it after you've corrected what they've told you to. And they pre-charge you for the second inspection. So that's what the $160, I think 167 is. And if you fail again, then it gets more expensive. So, because I told them everyone thought it was free, that you got a correction notice and then you got inspected and then you started paying. I said, no, it's the second one. So, Jay.
We have the notice saying that they're going to come out and do the inspection. But they say that they're going to do that because we're in the designated fire area. But we're not in the designated fire area. We're outside of it.
Better follow what they want to do, because they will send you a bill. But
how can they legally do that if I'm outside the designated fire area?
Send them an email with your address and tell them, as far as you can tell, you're outside the area.
right.
Okay.
I mean, according to the fire chief, what was the number I said? How many thousands?
Oh, 30,000?
Yeah, they've done like 13, 14,000 inspections, and they've only had 100 that failed. So, he said that.
So that means there'll never be any more fires.
So, yeah, he was pretty happy with that people had cleared their brush and done what they were supposed to do. So, yeah, and Jay, I mean, yeah, just send them a note or send me your address and I'll fire it off to them and ask why you're getting notices. They could just be picking on you. Rich?
I didn't get a notice of inspection, but I got a notice of $2,000 annual increase to my homeowner's insurance.
Oh, yeah.
We turned your name in for that.
Yeah.
You're not the only one. Everybody.
But can the fire department inspect you even if you're not in the red zone?
Yes.
I would think they had that flexibility.
Right, they have that ability, they can. And besides, they're using the drones too. So they're flying over, if they see something, then they may, what's in your backyard, Jay?
Well, this is new for Riverside, it's not new for other areas. We lived in the San Bernardino Mountains for 10 years ago, and that was standard procedure. If you didn't clean up so far around your property, the pine needles and off the roof and everything, they came around and cited you, and then if you didn't clean it up, they sent somebody to clean it up and they charged you for it. It's that simple. Because it was, I mean, the whole mountain was a fire hazard. One of those pine trees ignites and it goes up like a Roman candle. So, any other questions on that fire? Glad we were able to bring that up. So, okay, Orange Terrace Community Center, we want to thank them for letting us use the facility. facility. If you're not getting our emails, sign up with the lovely lady in the back and the gentleman with her, and they can sign you up. $12 a year to become a voting member. We encourage everyone to become a voting member. We still have our legal fund, and we might start using it here pretty soon. Our Magna Court case goes for an arraignment tomorrow morning at 8:30, courtroom 61. Anyone who wants to come, there'll be a few people there that would probably be helpful. This is a pretty important arraignment. This is after he was originally arraigned. Now he's being arraigned again because the court has determined that there's enough evidence for a felony, but the judge is indicating that he might do a misdemeanor, so it's important we have a few people there to kind of show consolidation that, you know, we care about this. We're about one of the only victims in one of these cases that has shown up for every hearing. Most people don't show up and just let the courts do their thing, but we've shown up for every hearing. I wrote a victim's impact statement where I went through and talked about our group and how long we've been around and that what we do. And I emphasized the fact that this was not just a regular theft, that this was somebody that was maliciously doing it for a reason, and that it was coinciding with the fact that we were against the apartment complex. It started then in May, and then when we filed our suit for the apartment for the Kmart in January, it escalated and took more signs. It got to a point where he was taking so many signs, he was taking them, and we had the trackers on them, and we were so good at figuring out where they would. He'd dump them in the dumpster, we'd pull them out, put them back up, and he'd take them again the next day. So, but that was going on starting in January and February. As far as we know, he's never been to one of our meetings, doesn't know anything about the group. Our big thing is, I don't care about what he gets convicted of, I just want to know the motive. I want to know if he was doing it for somebody, or doing it to get a client, or whatever. Other than I was just picking up the signs because I wanted to clean up the neighborhood. Of course, I left the signs that said, put your Christmas tree lights up in July. And lost dog, and garage sale, and that kind of stuff. So we sent a statement in. We also sent in the cost of all the signs that we lost and our time and everything of that to get paid back for that. So we'll see what happens with this case tomorrow morning. But it doesn't stop us from pursuing it in the courts afterwards as a civil matter. So that's what we're looking at. Okay. Remember the rules, respect one another, raise your hand to speak, email us if you have any questions afterwards. We still have our Alliance tours, and I know a couple people mentioned they're interested. Brian, you want them to email us if they're interested in the tours?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you go on the website, there's actually a tab that has the tours. You can just fill out a form, and then once we have a date, we'll send it out. And most of the tours are limited to like 15 people. Otherwise, they can't handle a big crowd. So the sooner you sign up, the better it is.
Okay, we've got some general updates. Fire or police here tonight? They're off for the holidays, okay. Got that. We got speakers tonight. We got the Water District, the American Red Cross. We got Melissa and her gang is here. So we'll let you know. I'm going to go through a couple of things first. You know, I know you're anxious, and that's okay. So some general updates. Election. Everyone been following the election, the 3 wards. Basically, Ward 6 was won outright by Luis. He got over 50% of the vote, so he will be sworn in this week, I think. I think he was sworn in yesterday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, so he was sworn in yesterday. So he won with 50%, which was kind of a surprise because there was a lot of support from the city and city council for other candidates. The other 2 wards are going to go for a runoff, which hasn't happened in a while, Ward 2 and Ward 4. Rich is here tonight. He's in the runoff for Ward 4. Rich, stand up, let everyone know who you are. And Ward 2 is a runoff. In that one, Aram and Gracie Torres will be in the runoff for that one, and that one will be in November. So one of the things we're pushing for is get the RTRP underground wiring issue to the city council now before November, because we think we have the votes to basically at least look into it again, putting it underground. Because we know the 3 new city council members that got voted are going to vote against it, but we think now we have 4 votes to at least look at it. And then we can let them vote no again, so everybody will see it, if they're not supporting it. Also, Measure Z went down to 58% to 41% or so it went down to defeat. Compared to other cities, a lot of theirs passed. They had similar measures for sales tax increases, and a lot of those around the state passed. Ours failed quite heavily. We were pretty strong on that one, saying that it had nothing to do with the fire and the police. It had to do with the general fund and just putting money in the general fund. But there is a caveat to that. One of the things that we learned is that if the city or the county puts up a measure, like the Measure Z, and they wanted it to be a special tax instead of a general tax, they would have to get 2/3 of the votes. Otherwise, they get 50% if it's a general tax. That's a lot of reasons why they don't do a special tax, which I think they would have gotten it if they would have done that. But up until now, or until we'll see what happens in November, if we put up an initiative and go out and get the signatures, we only need 50% to do a special tax. But that could end in November. Have any of you gotten a mailer in the mail recently saying, save Proposition 13, vote for this proposition, this initiative on the ballot? That's another one they're trying to fool you. That is basically an initiative to get rid of the public being able to go out and get the signatures and do their own special tax and only have to get 50%. They want to change that to 2/3 vote. So they want to make it more difficult for the people to go out and do their own initiative by making them do 2/3 vote. And the argument is that it's been misused. That instead of the cities, if they wanted to do a special tax, instead of doing it themselves and needing 2/3 vote, they got groups that wanted to sponsor those and put up the money to go out and get the public to do it, and go out and get an initiative signed and put up a bunch of money, and then do it that way and get the 50% vote. So instead of writing a law that would curtail that by saying big special interest groups can't put up a bunch of money to get a special tax put in place, they're basically going to throw the baby out with the bathwater by making it harder for any of us to get an initiative through. And the weird thing about the law is, the initiative is that it's retroactive to 2018. So if any city or county had voted one in and it was less than 2/3 vote, it'll be nixed. Yeah, so don't let that one fool you if you get that, if you got that in your hand. Our investigative reports, again, we've got several of those out. Our free AI seminar, I'll put a flyer out about that. We've got a new podcast coming up, right? We're setting up shop in Brian's office to do a new podcast. What's it called?
Neighborhood Pulse.
Neighborhood Pulse. We can put a video up later, right? You got the video to put up?
Yeah, I can put it up.
We'll put it up later. We'll put the video up later, but we're going to put up a new podcast where we can do 3, 4, 5, 10-minute podcasts, post them on YouTube, have interviews, and so on. Give updates on what the city council's been doing, or not doing, or should be doing, or want to do, or can't do. And we'll be putting that up and starting doing kind of news podcast. And we're also going to get in place, we officially had this, but we haven't reacted on it. The Riverside Organization of Community Councils, called The Rock, that will be a 501c4, and that one will be able to be political in nature, endorse candidates, and so on. It's common for nonprofits to do that, to set up a separate nonprofit that can actually be political in nature and go out and endorse candidates and so on. So we picked that name because it's called The Rock. So, and our slogan will be, "Don't mess with the Rock." So here's one of our community advocacy reports. This is an example. Here's the, Brian's going to be giving a leveraging AI. You want to talk about that, Brian? On Wednesday, on Thursday?
Tomorrow night, I've got about 12 hours for the class, but they're only giving me an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes. So it's not going to be a real beginner's class, that this is what AI is. It's going to be more what you can do and how to, whatever you're doing, how to do it better. I mean, if you're a beginner, yes, it'd be good to come to. If you're already using AI, it'd be good to come to. If you're an expert at AI, it'd be great for you to come to and teach me. But there's a lot that can be done. And as Louis said, we're setting up a green screen studio in my office so we can make videos, we can make podcasts. Eventually, we can even make commercials for people if they want to do a quick commercial for their business. But the goal is at least to start with, once a week, have a news report that follows what the city council's done, what the county supervisors have done. I don't know if we'll get to the state, because that'd be a 10-hour report. And then tell what's coming up, so people know, hey, maybe I should go down to the city council Tuesday night, or maybe I should go to the county supervisors Tuesday morning. And then if we have enough people volunteering to do the programs, then we'll have more programs. So if you have an idea for a program you think we should do, let us know.
Or someone you think we should interview?
Right, someone we can interview, and the water district can come down and we can have, you guys come up with an idea, we'll make it happen.
You can even bring some water with you.
So, there you go.
Okay, so here we talked about the 3 council elections. Here's the map showing the city council. So Ward 6 is sworn in with the new city council member. 2 and 4 will be decided, like I said, in November. So with that, I think, Melissa, you can come up now and bring your game.
You guys are so high tech with all these mics now. So, thank you everyone. My name is Melissa Bustamante. I'm here on behalf of Western Water. I also brought my gang here. I have Carissa Hernandez and Ken Smith, who's all the way in the back corner. They're part of our water use efficiency team. So after I say my updates, Chris is going to go up and share a little bit about water use efficiency. I just have a few updates for you guys today. My first one is our Water Smarts 101 workshop is coming up. Our next one is on Saturday, July 25th. It'll be at 10 a.m. at our headquarters up the street along Meridian Parkway in Riverside. It's open to the public. We're not at capacity, right?
I'm sorry?
We're not at capacity, right? Okay. Yeah, so free to the public, bring a friend, bring your family. You could register online at westernwaterca.gov/watersmarts101. Again, they're free. And then our topic for this month will be finding and fixing household leaks. So my next update is so with the hot summer weather going on right now, it's a great time to be mindful of your water use, especially being outdoors. So if you haven't already, sign up for the Western Water portal to monitor your water use, review your water budget, and you can also receive alerts straight to your phone that can help you identify leaks as well. A few other easy ways to save water during the summer include watering early during the morning, checking your irrigation system for leaks, and watching for runoff when watering, especially during these hot summer months. I think today was like 95, so a perfect example. Carissa will talk more about water use efficiency though in the presentation coming up. And then my last update is our 2025 water quality report was just released on July 1st. So our team over the past year conducted over 36,000 water quality tests across 117 sampling locations. So they've been really busy doing that, keeping up with federal standards. So if you wanted to view or download a digital copy, go ahead and go online to westernwaterca.gov/water quality report. If you would like the printed hard copy, go ahead and call our offices, just request one, they'll just ask for your address. Or you can email us at outreach@wmwd.com. I think that's all I have, so I'll kick it off to Chris.
Good evening, everyone. Like Melissa was saying, my name is Carissa Hernandez, and I am with Western Water, and I'm joined here by my colleague Ken Smith. We are part of the Western Water Efficiency Team. So really what that means is that we're here to help you become more water efficient in your home, and we have programs that can do that. But today we're going to be talking about how to take control of your water use, specifically how to utilize your water budget. So for a little bit of background, water does matter to all of us, right? We need water for work, to live, to play, and so we really want to make sure we're being really mindful of taking care of this resource. Because water supplies are limited, and so the small changes that we're going to talk about today are really important to make that impact. And so when we do make those small changes, we're able to protect long-term reliability, so water for our future. So this is something that Ken and I talk about pretty often, but when we are helping customers and we're setting up those phone calls or even in-person conversations, many folks think that there's a one-size-fits-all scenario to their water efficiency. You know, maybe it's just turning off the water itself. I mean, you could do that, but I don't recommend it. You need water. But really, we like to have those personalized conversations to talk about your lifestyle. Like, what do you have in your home? How large is your landscape? What type of irrigation systems do you have? What's your household size? Do you have horses? I don't know if anyone here has horses, but we have some folks who have horses, gardens and fruit trees and pools. So we like to make sure that we really communicate during these one-on-one conversations that there isn't a one-size-fits-all scenario, and there's properties that vary from size to size and lifestyle to lifestyle. And so really the goal is, how do we use water more efficiently? So we talked about this a little bit just a moment ago, but California really needs to be mindful of their water use. We are facing ongoing droughts and water supply challenges. So that's the reason why Ken and I are here today. And thank you so much for having us, because we really believe that, we really believe in these programs that Western Water has, and we want to bring those to you. So feel free to find us at the booth after. But California is facing ongoing droughts. And so state laws such as AB 1668 and SB 606 require greater water use efficiency. So that's why Ken and I are here today. And so like we said, small changes can make a big difference and help us for those water needs for tomorrow. And conserving water helps protect water supply for the future. So what impacts water use most? So here are some of the biggest drivers of water use. Outdoor irrigation. So if you have turf, if your entire front lawn is grass, if you do have leaks at home, I'm not sure if you guys know this, but the #1 leak in your home is actually the toilet. That's usually the leaks that we hear about the most. So we actually have toilet tabs that we have at the back for you guys. That way you can check to see if you have leaks. Water scheduling. Are you watering too much? Is the water going onto your sidewalk or onto your driveway versus onto your grass? We really want to make sure that we help you identify those items and those potential leaks. And we're going to talk about how we can do that today.
I have
And
a
also-
question about
Yeah, of course.
that. Now, do you guys supply the water for the city for watering the medians in the streets here?
Ken, do we supply the water for the medians for the city?
We do, through the areas that we serve, but the city has turned all the medians into water-wise landscaping, except for drought line. They didn't get grant money for that. But all the other medians have been converted to drought tolerant.
Because a lot of those, they're spraying the water everywhere but on the plants. It's being sprayed in the streets, even the ones that they redid the landscaping, they're still spraying all over the asphalt. instead of where they're supposed to be spraying, so I'm not sure.
We can reach out to Parks and Rec. to make
Yeah.
sure that-
And some of them are just broke and shooting bubbling water up all over the place, and so, I don't know how often you check, but
Yeah, we can reach out to Parks and Rec and have them do an audit, just to make sure that this is correct.
yeah, I would have them check Troutwine, I'd have them check Alessandro, I'd have them check Mission Grove. Troutwine, Alessandro, those three anyway.
Can you make a note of that, please? Cool. Thank you, Ken. Great question. So like he was saying, you know, we really want to make sure that the water is actually being utilized and isn't being wasted. So thinking about checking for broken sprinkler heads and such, but we'll get into that. So some of the easy ones. So you can adjust your watering seasonally, so when it gets hotter, probably need some more water to water your landscape. But when it does get cooler, thinking about changing your watering scheduling. That is going to play into your water budget. Repairing leaks as quickly as you can. One of the easiest ones to check for, like I said, is toilets. Check for irrigation. Check for those broken sprinkler heads because those are important. And we want to make sure that you aren't paying for water that you're wasting. We want to make sure you're really utilizing that water from your water budget. Water early in the morning, because usually it's cooler during that time. And also turning off the sprinkler system when it does rain. I'm going to be talking about one of the rebates that we have, which is a weather-based irrigation controller. Has anyone ever heard of that? With it? Okay, a couple. Perfect. So that is an item that we have available as a rebate and also part of our water efficiency assessment program, which I'll talk about. But it is a really great tool to help kind of make setting up your water scheduling easier and also to help you avoid watering when it's actually rain. So like Melissa was sharing earlier, our Western Water Portal. If you haven't signed up for this, this is a really great tool and actually something that Ken and I use every single day. It is like an online dashboard where you can see your water use in real time. It does take about 24 hours to empty, so you'll be able to see 24 hours past. But you're able to see when you're watering, to see when those usages increase, and also to see when you might have a leak. Ken and I really use this water portal to identify when there might be a potential leak in your home. So we do send leak notifications, and I'll talk about that, but we usually can tell if there might be a leak if there's 24 hours of continuous water use. So Ken and I will actually use this tool to help our customers and set them up with our water efficiency assessments that we offer. But this is great for identifying possible leaks, monitoring irrigation changes, so as the seasons change, making sure that your irrigation and scheduling changes as well, and understanding your own usage patterns. So we are creatures of habit. We usually go to bed around the same time, shower at the same time, and such. So when you're able to look at this dashboard and see there's water use at 1 o'clock in the morning, but I'm not awake, and it's going on for 24 hours after that, that might be a signal that there's a potential leak, and that's a way that you can kind of get ahead of the problem before it becomes larger. All right, our leak notifications. So this is kind of what I was talking about earlier with our water efficiency assessments that tie into our leak notifications. When there's been 24 hours of continuous water use, you will receive a leak notification to your email, or also a letter too if you don't have the email set up, letting you know, hey, you've seen 24 hours of continuous water use. We recommend that you give us a call or sign up for this water efficiency assessment, so that way we can help you take a look to see what might the problem be. And so common leaks include toilets, broken sprinkler valves. So with our water efficiency assessment program, these are a lot of the items that we see that are pretty common that we're able to help customers with. All right, so for our water budgets, or for everyone's water budget, some people aren't really sure about what that comprises of, but it does comprise of irrigated landscape area. So what area are you actually watering? Your household size, so if you have 2 people living in your home and maybe you have 4 now, let us know so that way we can make sure that your water budget reflects that, because you do get water per person in your household. And also just thinking about the seasonal needs for water budget. And has anyone ever heard of WaterWise Landscaping, or our turf transformation program? Anyone heard about? Raise hands, a couple? Okay, perfect. So for our turf transformation program, there are rebates available, so I recommend you guys check out our website or find Ken and I after. But this is a really great opportunity to transform your landscape, so that way it is more water efficient. Some people think it has to be succulents and pokey things like cactus, and it doesn't have to look like that. It can be California native plants because they're built for this climate, so they will use less water. And we actually have booklets called Landscapes with Styles that you guys are free to grab, and it's just a great opportunity to get some inspiration of what your landscape could look like and what you're really looking for. Because we all like a specific landscape. We want it to look a certain way. We want it to be inviting. And so we have some ideas for you guys in the back. But they can comprise of California native plants. It can be very beautiful. And also something to think about too for those turf transformations, how you can utilize drip irrigation in your landscape. So drip irrigation is actually more water efficient, and we can talk about that with you guys at the end. And rebates, like I said, will be available for this one. And on our website, we do have a few indoor rebates and outdoor rebates. So that includes clothes washers, toilets, and for outdoors, it would be the weather-based irrigation controller, high-efficiency sprinkler nozzles, rain barrels, and also our turf replacement program. And like Melissa was saying, we do have our next workshop, which is going to be July 25th. And so we'll be talking about how to find and fix household leaks. And we'll have 2 of our Western Water field representatives kind of share a little bit about that and giving you some tips on ways that you can manage your home, and also just some early signs of what might be a potential leak and where you can find the problem before it becomes bigger. And then our following workshop for 2026 will be Autumn is Landscape Haven. So that'll be September 19th, and that's going to teach you a little bit about how you can prepare in the fall, prepare your landscape before you get into those colder seasons. So like I said, Ken and I are here to help. Our Western Water Customer Service team is here to help. We actually do provide water use reviews. So again, looking at our water portal to see what those water patterns look like and where we can potentially reduce those water patterns and water use, leak assistance, so give us a call regarding that. And also our water efficiency assessments. If you are a Western Water customer, I really do encourage you to give us a call regarding these assessments. We've made some adjustments to this program, and it really helps the customer potentially find those leaks and also be able to repair those. And so that's something that within the program that Western Water would be able to cover within the vendor that we use within their ability. And then we also have those workshop opportunities. So if you have any questions, feel free to find Ken, Melissa, and myself at the booth in the back, or we can take a question if you have one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one. Actually, more of a comment is, some 30 years ago, when I moved into the Western Water District, I noticed, holy cow, my water bill's way up compared to where I come from, further down the riverside, just a couple of blocks. And so I ran a few tests as far as water usage, and ran my water usage to make sure it was as low as I could possibly be at the time. Didn't really make much of a difference. The water bill stayed roughly the same. And come to find out over the years that it is more, in my opinion, more of a infrastructure situation within Western, the way the bills are created and what the money goes towards, than the actual water usage. So I could have no water usage at my house and get almost exactly the same bill. And to me, that's concerning, because it really, there's no incentive to save in water. The bill's going to be the same.
That's going to change over time.
I've heard that previously, yes.
Well, with regulation 1668 passing, Western Water is now also standard that in 2035 what we're allowed.
Louder, please.
In 2035, what we're allowed to use drinking water to water outside landscape will be reduced. So we will be addressing proactively the outdoor budgets as well as taking further in 2040. So if we were to maintain that same landscape, the cost of water is going to be quite low.
The cost of water, what?
We'll need a little bit more because we are basically being told by the state that it's called conservation making conservation away of California law. That passed 2 years ago, and basically it has given milestones that basically says that each public water agency must adapt to them over time. Nothing has changed for outdoor as of yet. In 2035, that water factor outside will be the 0.63. What that means is to keep grass green, it takes 80% evaporation. You have to replace 80% of your water that evaporates to keep grass green. Western will only be allowed to give 63% back. And in 2040, Western will only be allowed to give 55% of that back. If you chose to keep watering at that higher rate, you would go into that higher conservation tier, and that cost of water will be higher. But you are correct. As of today, the majority of the cost, probably 80% of your bill, 90% of your bill, is going to be what I would call basically having water on demand, turning a switch, having it ready to go 24 hours a day. When the power, when Edison's turning off power because of wind and this and that, water's still going. All those costs are the bottom line to get that. But you are correct. But in the long term, you will see that cost fluctuate.
Perhaps that adjustment will be more incentive to actually reduce. Two other quick things. One is that the cost is, I believe, correctly if I'm wrong, amortized throughout the entire Western system. So somebody on the other side of the road, if the water went over there, that water is going to go into my way.
No, that's not true. It is different. I can tell you that the cost of water in Marietta is quite a bit more than the cost of water in Riverside, the cost to get it there, the power, things like that. So those are all taken into consideration, the power zones, how much power it takes to get water to certain areas. So it does vary throughout the region.
Yeah, just a quick note, a couple of years back, I changed the water in my pool, I still went down, so it went down, and filled it back up, and there was a credit that came back, because I applied for that. About $7.
Yeah, it's going to be minimal. It's minimal. It depends on a few factors. When you do it, what's your usual use, what's your typical budget. I've seen it as high as $200. I've seen it as low as $5. The credit's given once every 5 years. So it just depends. Pool size, a couple other factors, but it's at the end of the day, the credit's given to say that we do have to charge for the water being used, but we don't want you to get into a higher conservation tier, knowing that you typically have to do something every 5 years for a pool, maintenance and things like that. So it is. Yeah, I get it. For $5, you probably spend more than $5 after. I get it. But yeah, there are definitely some things that I'm new to water, just like I came from auto insurance, and people hate water, people hate auto insurance. But my understanding is some of these regulations, it's the first time agencies have been held to the standard and really showing that water is a precious resource. Before it was just kind of willy-nilly and kind of use it as you want. So.
Definitely is a precious resource, and all for itself. It's just
the monetary. Yeah. It's a good and a bad thing. I'm a decent customer. The monetary incentive is there, trust me. You get into tier 4, it's $20 a unit. Ours right now is right around $5, so it's good and bad.
Okay, if you have any more questions, see them at the back table. I know water is a very complicated thing. I was fortunate enough with Western to be on the tours going up to Oroville and the San Francisco Bay Area and see where all the water comes from and where the new basins are going to be built. And a lot of this stuff, the state approved new water reservoirs like 60 years ago, but then never came up with the money. And now they're talking about coming up with the money. And then you still have the 6 states that control the Colorado River. They're still battling over that. And that is a big battle that's coming to a head right now, because if I'm not mistaken, if they don't come up with an agreement like in the next year or so, the federal government's going to come in and do the agreement for them. And that's probably going to cause a bunch of lawsuits. So water is a big, contentious thing. We live in the desert. So it becomes very, yeah.
Real quick, before we head out today, swing by the Western Water booth in the back. They have 3 goodie bags for you guys. One has flyers or things, pens, stuff like that. So grab one or grab two.
Each bag has a $100 bill in it. Okay, thank you. We're going to have the Red Cross come up here now. Lois Beckman from the Red Cross. While she comes up and gets her computer set up, is everyone aware that the city manager is gone?
Yes.
Everyone's aware of that? Everyone knows the whole story, the Peyton Place thing and all that stuff?
Not the entire story, but we are aware that he's gone.
He is gone, yes. So now we've got a new city manager. We still have the auditor job, which we all voted on 2 years ago, and they still haven't filled that position. They just hired a new city attorney, and that was a bit unusual because we haven't had a city attorney for like 18 months, and then suddenly they had to do an emergency thing where instead of giving the 12 days for the city council to get them in immediately, and several people kind of complained about that. We didn't give the public time to review the new candidate for that, but they hired a new city attorney.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me to be here tonight. As I said, my name is Lois Beckman, and I'm the Executive Director for the American Red Cross of Riverside County. I've been with Red Cross about 19 years. Most of my career has been in nonprofit work, including domestic violence, hospice, and healthcare. Obviously, there's something about the Red Cross that really touches my heart. It aligns with my values. I'm so excited to be a part of this wonderful organization. During my Red Cross employment, I've had the opportunity to deploy to several major disasters, including the Maui wildfires 2 years ago, and last October to Alaska for a typhoon that impacted several villages. I always like to start out with our mission. The American Red Cross prevents and alleviates human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. We do that by providing shelters during disasters, providing life-saving blood products, and by training people in CPR and first aid here in the community. The power of volunteers. Did you know that our workforce is 90% volunteers? People who respond to disasters in the middle of the night, who help install free smoke alarms during our sounding alarm events, people who roll up their sleeves and donate blood. Generosity of donors. Again, our donors are not only people who donate blood, but who donate money, goods, services, various things that make the work we do possible. We respect the generosity of our donors and are very careful with the money that they are so generously give us. 90 cents of every dollar we raise, we spend directly on programs and services. And the majority of the funds that we raise come from individuals and companies. We are not a government agency. We receive very little government funding, mostly for our services to armed forces programs. I've always said that one of the things that I love about this organization is that I have the opportunity to see the money that we raise today go directly to a family who needs it tonight. So imagine this, it's the middle of the night. A family is asleep until suddenly smoke fills their home. Within minutes, everything they own is gone. Now, before the sun even rises, someone shows up, not to take, not to question, but to help. That someone is often the Red Cross. When most people hear American Red Cross, they think of blood drives, but the Red Cross is something much bigger than just that. It is a network of millions of volunteers and donors who step in during life's most difficult moments. After hurricanes destroy entire communities, during wildfires that displace thousands, when a family just lost everything in a house fire, when a military member needs support, and yes, when people need life-saving blood. Red Cross doesn't just respond to disasters or emergencies, we respond to human needs. So let's talk a little bit about our different lines of service. So biomedical services or blood services. American Red Cross helps millions of people in their battle back to good health every year through its blood services programs. Each year on average, the American Red Cross collects nearly 4.5 million blood donations and more than 1 million platelet donations from more than 2.3 million volunteer donors. These donations were then processed into nearly 6.3 million blood products for transfusion to meet the needs of patients at about 2,500 hospitals and other facilities across the country. Every 2 seconds, someone in the US needs blood. How many of you have donated blood? Thank you. How many of you have received blood? Good group, lucky group, I would say. I've had several people in my family who have received blood, and I'd like to share a video with you now. It was made by one of my coworkers who actually lives in this community. Let's see if I can just. Sorry about that. We tried this out before and it worked.
Been a part of many disasters in my career at Red Cross.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
You can't see it?
I've stood with folks who have lost their homes, fires, and, I've seen, lives turned upside down.
It's always somebody else's disaster. March 14, 2025 was our disaster.
It's just a person talking.
We received a call from the Riverside Police Department about 10 o'clock in the evening. And the officer said that our son, David, was in a serious motorcycle accident. He was breathing, but he was unresponsive. I can say now it's a phone call that no parent ever hopes to receive. But the fact was that it was happening, and David, age 21 at the time, was fighting for his life. David's injuries were critical. His most serious injury was a liver laceration that has a high mortality rate, mainly due to blood loss. He also had a traumatic brain injury and a fractured pelvis. The importance of blood donation, it was critical in David's case because he received 36 units of blood during his recovery. I remember looking at the nurse's notes that first weekend, and he had received 25 units of blood. So it goes without saying that if the blood was not on the shelf when David needed it, he would not have survived. My son's life was saved because 36 people decided to donate blood. And I would like to ask each of you in this room today to consider donating blood. Think about the lives that can be saved with the number of people in this room donating blood.
Switch back. Yay. So Kurt, who was speaking in the video, ironically, he had raised about $2.3 million from a foundation to build the blood center here in Riverside. It's our first fixed blood center in Inland Empire. And he had done this shortly before his son's accident. So it meant a lot to him, it meant a lot to all of us, that his son had the blood that he needed. He was at Riverside Community Hospital. Kurt said he stood there and he was watching, you could read on the bag of blood, that it was from the American Red Cross. And we were actually able to go back and trace the donor who had donated that blood, and he was able to tell him thank you. In addition to blood services, we also teach life-saving skills. CPR, first aid. How many of you are trained in CPR and first aid? Yay, good group here. It becomes so important for us, for me personally. I had my youngest son was having a baby, and they knew the baby was going to be born with some health challenges, and the hospital made sure that they took their CPR and first aid class. And my grandson Colby, after 8 weeks in the hospital, finally got to come home. Was only home a couple of days when he stopped breathing. And they were able to resuscitate him thanks to the classes, thanks to understanding what to do. And he's now 6 years old today. So I think it's so important. We always say have one person in every household trained in CPR. I say have two, because what if it's the person that's trained that needs the help? So always make sure you have two people trained. I want to talk a little bit about our other services, especially as far as disaster response. Disasters, when I first started here, I knew not to plan a vacation in like September, October, November, because it was fire season. There is no fire season anymore. Every day is fire season. We currently have a shelter open in Murrieta for the volcano fire. I think it's probably closing. We didn't have any population. But if there are evacuation warnings and orders in this county, we are opening shelters to serve the people that may need it. In 2023, nearly 2.5 million people in the U.S. were displaced from their homes due to disasters. Right now, we have people deployed to Guam. It's not making much of the news, but Guam has had another really large typhoon after having one in May. You saw in our region the hazmat incident in Garden Grove. We opened 8 shelters during that time. In the month of May, I think we had 3 shelters open. One was for the Bane fire, which actually had me evacuated from my home for that fire. So fires are happening every day in this county, in the state, and across the country. We provide care during life's darkest moments. We provide warm meals, vital relief supplies, a safe shelter for the family, including pets, health and mental health support, and financial assistance. When I talked about, I could see the money that we raised today go to a family tonight, our volunteers are able to provide financial assistance on the spot to a family that's lost everything. So I get to see that money go directly to them, and it's so rewarding. Fire department calls us when there's a disaster, and we respond. One of our programs is called our Sound the Alarm program. We know that if people have working smoke alarms in their houses, they're more likely to survive that. So we have this Sound the Alarm program. We install free smoke alarms in people's homes, usually on Saturdays. And since the beginning of the program in 2014, we have documented across the country almost 3,000 lives saved. 31% of those were children under the age of 18. We did one Sound the Alarm program in Palm Springs, and I think it was like a year later that we got a call, and one of the houses where we had installed the alarms, gone through with the family how to escape during a disaster. They had a fire and they were able to get out safely. We also teach people how to be prepared. You're going to find some flyers in the back. 21 weeks to prepare, I think is what it's called. How to build your to-go kit. Now, if you get evacuated while you're at work, you can't get to your to-go kit. That's what I found out during the Bane fire. You need to keep one in the car too. We also have services for our military families. How many of you here have served in the military? Yay, thank you. Thank you for your service. You might know that we are the organization that when someone is in the military, if there's an emergency in their family members are told to contact the Red Cross. And we're able to get that message to that service member. And in today's environment, people will say, well, are you really still all that relevant? You know, there's cell phones, there's email, there's all of these ways to get in touch with people. But you know, there's a death in the family, that information needs to be handled a little more tactfully, and it also needs to be verified. And we're the organization that can do it. And that's where we sometimes get funding from the government to do that service. We're the only organization that does that. Our staff deploy to military bases all around the world. As you can imagine, with the way things are right now, we're seeing more and more of our employees deploying across or around the world. We just had one from our office who went to, she's going to South Africa this month. And she'll be there about 6 months. So our employees are very dedicated. They're there to support our men and women who are fighting to protect our country.
Lois?
Yes?
You're one slide ahead of what you're talking about.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. These are just some stats of what we've done here in Riverside County in the past year. We responded to 254 disasters just in Riverside County, helping 373 families. We've installed over 1,000 smoke alarms. We enrolled over 16,000 people in training courses. We've provided more than 1,700 services to military families and members and their families. We collected over 16,400 platelet and red blood cells and supported by more than 1,000 volunteers. Now, that sounds like a lot. We always need more volunteers. So there's flyers back there too about how you can become involved and be a volunteer. I wanted to share just a little bit about a deployment. I mentioned earlier that I'd gone to Alaska. That was in October. And each time I deploy, I learn something new about our country and about our organization. So some background, on Sunday, October 12th, the remnants of Typhoon Halong caused catastrophic coastal flooding and hurricane-force winds in western Alaska, destroying numerous low-lying villages and displacing over 2,000 people. Storm surge ripped homes from their foundations, down power lines, destroyed boardwalks, and severely compromised water and sewage systems. Recovery efforts began almost immediately, but with winter closing in and no roads connecting most of these villages, rebuilding and delivering supplies to the remote, isolated communities proved to be extremely challenging. The Red Cross supported efforts to stage one of the largest airlifts in the state's history, working with state, tribal, local officials, and partners to support the evacuees who were flown to shelters in Bethel and Anchorage. The coastal villages of Kipnik, Quig, and Naibut were among the hardest hit. The Red Cross acknowledged that this disaster relief operation was taking place on ancestral land of many different communities and made cultural sensitivity and awareness a key part of responding training. We worked to create an environment where survivors could regain a sense of safety, dignity, control as they navigated their recovery. You know, we're there to serve the whole person, not just provide the shelter, but to meet them where they are. Hundreds of Red Cross disaster workers from across the country deployed to help provide safe shelter, food, emergency relief supplies, emotional support, and health services. We supported 2 large shelters in Anchorage, one at the Alaska Airlines Center on the campus of the University of Alaska, and another at the Egan Civic Convention Center. This is Brenda Bridges. She is from our Southern California region. It was really nice. I walked in and I saw a friendly face, someone that I knew from home, and she was the shelter manager there. There were 3 other sites in Bethel area, which were housing a small number of clients. We began providing individual financial assistance for the evacuees in the shelters. For evacuees not in shelters, we used information provided by the state of Alaska to contact them. Red Cross teams reached out or traveled to the affected areas to assist the casework. I got to stay in Anchorage. I'm really glad because this is a photo of one of the teams we deployed to Bethel and impacted villages to deliver relief supplies and financial assistance. They had to travel by plane and they weren't sure they were going to get to come back for a couple days. It all depended on the weather. This is a picture of one of our shelters that was set up. These were fairly large shelters. We housed about 150 to 200 people. We don't have pictures of clients in there because that was part of the cultural sensitivity. They didn't want us taking pictures of the clients. A lot of new clothing was donated. This was over Halloween, so you see some costumes hanging there too. Again, we need to provide these types of things when we open a shelter. These photos represent some of the artwork that children were doing. Again, as we're caring for people, it's not just about the shelter, it's about meeting them emotionally. And so we had them, some of the volunteers work with them to draw pictures, to talk about how they felt. Some of them are dark because the kids were scared. And some of them were very colorful and they were very hopeful. The other wall is a chain of well wishes sent from school children to those staying in the shelters. Over 150 students who evacuated were enrolled in the Anchorage School District. And fortunately, along with the children came some of the teachers, because can you imagine if one of our schools got an influx of 150 students just overnight? It takes some coordination to do. It's probably important to understand that many of the people who were airlifted to Anchorage had never been there before. They weren't used to being in a city. They weren't familiar with public transportation. Most had never seen an escalator like the one at the Egan Center. In fact, the kids were so fascinated by the escalator, we had to shut it down and block it off to keep them safe. I mean, they thought it was like a Disneyland ride. They were so excited about it. As you can imagine, life for those in the shelter was very different than what they were used to. Many of the men expressed concern because they weren't working. And the clients were very excited when 3 seals were donated and arrangements were made for clients to clean and prepare the seals for a communal meal. One tribal leader expressed that for the first time in his life, he couldn't see the ocean or smell the sea. It was a very odd sensation for him. Our Alaska Red Cross CEO from the area offered to come back the next day and walk the gentleman about 5 blocks to where he could see the ocean. And yet with all the struggles, there were also many, many smiles. I saw so many appreciation from the clients and hope. They look forward to the time when they could go back to their villages and begin rebuilding. However, like I said, this was in October. They weren't going to be able to return to their villages until spring. So the state of Alaska contracted with a company and they put them in hotels and then found a short-term housing for them, or longer-term housing for them, I guess I should say. And here we were delivering welcome kits for them so that as they went from the shelter to the hotels, they had, some of the basic needs that they would want to have in their home. We also helped teach them how to use car seats for their children, because from the villages, they didn't have cars, so they didn't have car seats. We found it was taking a little bit longer than anticipated to get everybody transferred from the shelters to the hotels, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that the clients didn't want to leave. They were hugging the volunteers and they wanted to wait and to say thank you to each volunteer before they would pack up and leave. Concerned for clients in the non-congregate shelters, we decided to send small shelter teams to each hotel to make sure that not only their physical needs, but their emotional needs were being met. Mental health and physical health is just so important in these times of disasters. My assignment there is, when I deploy, is usually as an elected official liaison, and that's communicating and working with both elected and tribal officials. This photo is Alaska's Governor Mike Dunleavy and the Small Business Association Administrator Kelly Loeffler visiting the shelter at the University of Alaska. And we wanted to make sure that they got to see and they got to talk to the clients that were there. Another thing that I did is coordinated with the mayor's office from Anchorage. The Alaska Railroad had offered to take 125 clients on an all-day sightseeing tour of Alaska for free, with free meals. And the tour took place the day I was leaving to come home, but I understand they filled it all 125 spots, and the clients had a great time. I came home knowing that the operations would be transitioning back to the local region in a couple of weeks, and that our clients were in good hands. When I think about deployments, I'm reminded that some of us give by going to serve at these disasters, but others go by giving. Without the generosity of our donors, others couldn't go, which brings me full circle to our mission statement. So I'll leave you with this. Someone doesn't have to wear a Red Cross vest to embody our mission. The spirit of the Red Cross is something each of us can practice every day. Showing compassion when it's easier to look away, helping without expecting recognition, stepping up when others step back. Because at its core, the Red Cross is not just an organization, it's a reminder that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they choose empathy over indifference. So the next time you hear about a disaster, the next time someone in your community struggles, the next time you think someone should help, ask yourself, why not me? Because the power of the American Red Cross is not just its resources, it's in its people. People like you and people like me. So I invite you all to come and join us as volunteers, as donors, as blood donors. Thank you. So, any questions for me? Oh, yes.
If we donate blood to the blood bank, can we ask that it be donated to the American Red Cross, or do we have to go directly through American Red Cross if that's where?
You would have to come to an American Red Cross blood drive or to our site. There's other blood organizations, and you know the important part is that you're giving blood. Obviously, I'd personally like you to give through the Red Cross, but the most important part is that you're donating your blood. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Lois? I certainly want to thank Lois and the Red Cross.
I want to just thank Lois because she allows us to have the MGNA board meeting in their conference room, which is a very nice conference room.
New overhaul to bring in the blood center, so the whole office got to.
We have to bring our own beer.
I didn't hear that because there's no alcohol allowed on site.
Does everyone know where the Red Cross facility is so they can?
So our office here in Riverside is located at 6235 Rivercrest Drive. So that is where the 215 and the 60 basically split, which makes it really a great location for us for serving the entire county. Hop on the freeway to go to Temecula, hop on the freeway to go to Palm Desert, which I'm going to Palm Springs tomorrow for a Battle of the Badges blood drive, or to hop on that wonderful 91 to go to Corona.
If you Google it, you'll find it, but you know where the DMV is? Right over there? It's right around the corner and down the street from the DMV towards the freeway.
In fact, the DMV used to be in the complex where we are years and years ago. Anyway, thank you for your time tonight. If you have any questions, please feel free. I've got some business cards back there. And again, we're always looking for volunteers. I know that you guys are talking about some of the fire preparation around the homes and stuff. We have some information on our website about that as well. If you as a group would ever be interested in training to work in a shelter, should there be a large disaster, we'd be happy to come in and do shelter training. So.
Brian and I have taken both the shelter training.
Oh, yay. So we should have called you last night for the shelter.
We're also on the board for the VOAD.
Oh, great. Great. VOAD is a great partner. You know, the important thing is, guys, one organization can't do it all. I mean, we really work with partners, and we depend on partners in the community to serve it. And when there is a very large disaster, like the LA wildfires last year, I mean, it takes so many people to be able to serve. So we appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, a couple of additional things, kind of some updates. This is a group of the companies that the city has gone out and partnered with from around the world, mainly the Asia. I wanted to update a couple of those. Omeo, for those of you who remember that, the self-driving little shuttles. They got a building over by the airport a couple of years ago. As far as we know, they have not gotten their approval to put their vehicles on the street. They've been using them around the airport, the Riverside Airport. Their contract is up in November. They got $2.5 million of our taxpayer money. So far from their website, I've seen where they have made no sales of any kind in the U.S. market. So I don't see us getting any tax revenues or anything from that one. The other one is Voltu. That one, the city just had a press release recently saying they got delivery of their first truck. Brian and I were over there about 2 weeks before that press delivery. They have a 40,000 square foot warehouse. There was nothing in there but one lift and one truck, and about 7 or 8 people working. So we don't know how quickly that assembly line is going to get set up. Supposedly they have orders for over 100 trucks. Chevy is the new one that they just signed up and did an agreement in the city council meeting a week or so ago. They are a company that makes chargers for electric vehicles in Korea. They went and met them in Korea and are getting them to open manufacturing or some kind of a plant here in Riverside. Basically, they want to move into the U.S. market. The only problem is with them, we gave them an MOU back in November, which they could use to raise money because it was basically a promise, it wasn't a contract. And they went public with their stock in April, and their stock has dropped by 24% since then. So I don't know what, the odds are of them surviving over the next couple of years, but they're here to try to build those up. The other one is SPT. They came in a year or so ago. They're another company out of China, and they produce batteries for solar. So if you've got solar panels on your house, you can get these backup batteries, like the Tesla batteries. The problem with them was I found a letter from a congressional committee dated about a year ago demanding that they hand over all the materials on their company and their whereabouts because they were suspected of being tied to the Chinese government and particularly the Chinese military. So, now the other one is Sci-Fi. I don't know if any of you remember that one. That's where we were all going to have fiber optics run through the whole city. The company came with a proposal and said, we'll do it all for free. They've done Placentia and Fullerton and others. And Brian and I last saw them a couple of years ago down in Ward 5 or 6 when they had a meeting. And I questioned them about where they were getting their funding. I said, how can you afford $300 million to put in this Wi-Fi that's going to take 4 or 5 years and wait to get your money back from providers that would come in and rent the lines to deliver to the people? And they said, well, we get them from UK pension funds. Well, they just filed bankruptcy in June after they were taken over by their 2 major investors from Germany and Denmark. And they have ceased all operations of installing any new cities. So I don't think we're going to get our Sci-Fi thing installed. Fortunately, we hadn't put out any money for them that I know of other than some city labor and so on to help them. But so a lot of these projects that the city's going out and spending money, traveling all over the world to research have not turned out very well. Now, my own personal thing was they don't have to go all the way to Korea or Japan to hunt these companies down. The Consumer Electronics Show is held every year in January in Las Vegas. It's the biggest electronic industry show. It's not open to the public in the world. There are hundreds of companies there from all over the world. If you've ever been to it, it takes like 3 or 4 days to get through it all. If you want to go look for companies that want to come to the United States and set up shop, that'd be the place to go. You can meet up with half a dozen of them in a couple of days instead of flying all over. But anyway, just to give you an update on those. I think most of you are here when we talked about the Riverside Election Integrity Team. Everyone familiar with that, and the sheriff taking the ballots from the Proposition 50, and now we're waiting for the California Supreme Court to make a decision on whether the ballots can be counted. That whole process, whatever you've read in the press, it has nothing to do with recounting what people marked on the ballots. It strictly has to do with the ballots. We've been auditing the ROV for several years. Our group, it's a nonpartisan group, we keep coming up using their tallies and their figures, coming up with more ballot. They're claiming more ballots were voted on, they counted as voting, than ballots received. So you can't very well count more ballots than ballots that you received. So the whole gist behind that was our data alerted the sheriff after so many times trying to get someone to pay attention to it. He went and questioned and had an interview with the ROV. They couldn't very well justify why the difference was 40-some thousand, 50-some thousand ballots. And so that's when he went to a judge and got a warrant to take the ballots. And the reason it happened when it did, it had nothing to do with the governor's race, because the ballots were going to be destroyed in May. Whenever you have a special election, the ballots are destroyed 6 months later. Now ask me why. I have no idea. That's just where the law is. We have to keep our income taxes for what, 7 years? Ballots get destroyed after 6 months for a special election. For a regular election, 22 months. So the 2024 ballots will be destroyed shortly before the November election. So as soon as they're destroyed, there's no way to recount anything. So we'll see what happens with that. Supposedly the Supreme Court comes out with their decisions like in August. It's kind of like the federal Supreme Court, they do them all kind of within a couple of days. So hopefully with all the data they've received, they will say, yeah, go ahead and count the paper, because it has nothing to do with the results of Prop 50. It just has to do with where is the error in counting the ballots. And it might just be an error. They're not counting them right, the machines aren't counting them right, we don't know. The machines use proprietary software. There's no way to go into the code to figure out what it does. And now the state law says you can't touch the machines unless you have probable cause. And the only way you would have it is if we count the ballots and find a miscount, then you could go into the machines and check them out. So that's just kind of explain that. And here's the numbers. We showed these before. On the 2 elections, Prop 50 was up by 46,000. And the 2024 general election was up by almost 34,000. Now keep in mind we have hundreds of elections in the county that were decided by less than 3,000 votes. Quite a number of them by less than 1,000 votes. So that could be material. If it turns out the machines are counting, who knows what's going on. So, okay, Orangewood, we haven't given up on it. We have a special speaker coming later this year to talk about how to create a new city. Very exciting. You don't want to miss that. We still are looking at creating a new city of Orangewood. So we have a couple of videos we want to share with you.
Welcome to Neighborhood Alliance Studios.
Our green screen setup is perfect for any production, and our podcast studio is top-notch.
We create engaging content for you.
Neighborhood Alliance Studios. Neighborhood Alliance Studios, where ideas come to life. We start with a green screen. Then, we add the magic, bringing your vision to the world.
Welcome to the Neighborhood Pulse. We're looking for anchors to join our team. If you have a passion for storytelling, we want to hear from you.
So that's our new Neighborhood Alliance Studio logo. What do you think? No? Yes? That's going to be for our podcast.
Welcome to Neighborhood Alliance Studios.
Our green screen setup is perfect for any production, and our podcast studio is top-notch.
We create engaging content for you.
Neighborhood Alliance Studios. Neighborhood Alliance Studios, where ideas come to life. We start with a green screen. Then, we add the magic, bringing your vision to the world.
Welcome to the Neighborhood Pulse. We're looking for anchors to join our team. If you have a passion for storytelling, we want to hear from you.
Okay, now this other video is very important. It's a very high-level person. I'm going to be speaking.
Folks, there's so much happening in the world today. Tremendous developments everywhere. But let me tell you the biggest news I've heard. The Mission Grove Neighborhood Alliance has officially announced the formation of the Neighborhood Alliance Studios. And now neighborhood groups can come together to produce their own high-quality video productions, excellent podcasts, and best of all, a brand new show called The Neighborhood Pulse. Your weekly update. Now, this will be a powerful recap of the top events from the past week in the city, the county, and even the state. Real local news, honest and straight from the neighborhoods. This is a huge win for our community. It's a really big, beautiful win. You're doing something very special. God bless you, and God bless America.
Make anybody a star. Okay. This has changed a little bit, right, Brian?
Right.
So we'll have the
We still have the DA in August, we still have the fire chief in September. October will now be the Senator Serrato, and then November 18th will be Gary Thompson on forming a new city. And all he's going to do is tell us what the process is and what the odds are of it succeeding.
The odds are good.
That's up to the people.
Yeah, basically, starting a new city is very similar to an initiative. We'll have to file the paperwork, we'll have to do some research to see if the tax base is there, if there's enough property tax and sales tax from the area to basically support a new city, which we think there is, because it's going to be about 100,000 people if we count this area plus the area, based in the map. So, so we think there'll be enough for that. And then we go out and get signatures, just like we would for an initiative. If people want to put it on the ballot and vote on it, and then they would vote on it. And then there's a whole process that goes through that's very strict on how you take over the city facilities that would be in the area to the new city and the county facilities, and how that gets taken over. They have to promise to provide services for 6 months. And then you would elect a new city council and hire usually a temporary city manager, someone that specializes in new city development and startups. So they only come on for a couple of years, and they would help get it going and started. This gentleman that's coming, Gary, he's done 4 or 5 new cities, 2 in Orange County and 3 here in the Riverside County. I think he did Menifee or Murrieta, he did Jurupa Valley, and a couple others. So he's very familiar with the process. So it might seem like a far out dream, but it really isn't compared, And the center of the city would just about be where Van Buren and Washington is geographically. Just to give you kind of an idea. So, any other questions? Yes.
What platform is the podcast going to be on?
What platform is the podcast going to be on? Do we know?
We're still working on that. We have a Roku channel, but we're working on getting that up and running. But we'll definitely put it on YouTube and Facebook. Obviously, if anyone wants to help,
Camera operators and everything. So. Okay, any other questions or comments? Next meeting, August 12th, District Attorney, Mr. Hester will be here. That'll be a good one. Okay? Yes?
When was Serrato come?
He's coming in October.
Thank you.
We just switched him and Gary will be in November. So.
you probably wanted to come before the election.
Yeah, probably a good idea. Okay, thank you all.
Yes.